Good evening, everyone. Nice
Good
to
evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
stay. Lovely to see you back, Martha, and also Robert coming back to us.
Thank you. Thank you. We missed last week. We
We
missed
missed you.
being
Yes,
here.
that's right. Great. I will open this text where we've been in this chapter 8. Okay, let's start with mantra. Om Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yatkarpatamaham bande paramananda madhavam. Okay, we stopped at number 16 of the 8th chapter. Abrahma bhuvana lokav punar avartinorjuna mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanmana vidyate. Abrahma bhuvanat lokah. So the worlds are coming straight from the Brahman, as it were, from the spirit. Literally, I'm translating. Punar avartino Arjuna. And reaching there, so to say, up to the spirit itself, the people come back. Punar avartina lokah. All the people or the worlds are coming from the spirit's heights down to the embodiment. This is actually a big point here, which is different from Advaitic point later. So it says literally, the highest heavens of the cosmic plan are subject to a return to rebirth. So it doesn't say that we will dissolve in the Brahman. No, the highest heavens of the cosmic plan is the Brahman, Bhuvana. So he is the highest. Mamupetya tu kaunteya punarjanma na vidyate. O kaunteya, there is no rebirth imposed on the soul. This is also important how Sri Aurobindo puts it. That comes to me, the Purushottama. And that's a big difference, yeah? Those who come to Sri Krishna, to Purushottama, to the transcendental, who is free from his being and non-being, do not have that kind of obligation to be reborn. Rebirth is not imposed on the soul. I think this is the key in Sri Aurobindo's explanation. He doesn't explain it, but he gives that kind of hint. What is really liberation? Liberation is actually freedom from this imposition or obligation to be reborn automatically, mechanically. And not now the soul can be reborn in as a choice, at will. So without being kind of dragged into this world, without any will or any decision, as we are reborn. We are reborn nearly mechanically. When there is an opportunity for our plan or our vision, what we want to achieve, we plunge into it because that is the opportunity. Here, there is nothing for this soul, which is with Purushottama, there is nothing to achieve, nothing to gain anymore. So the soul comes at its own will, if there is something to do. It's like these involutionary beings, like Vivekananda, for example, involutionary being. He came because he had a mission, something to achieve, something to bring down. And he decided to come. So that was it. That was his will. He was not reborn here because he had no choice. And that's the freedom he had. Yeah.
So, Vladimir,
Yeah.
from evolutionary, we become involutionary.
Involutionary being is the being who is not evolving anymore.
So, at what point
At what point?
does the evolutionary I know that's very
At
difficult.
that point,
Um,
I think we have to understand one thing, that evolution will go on forever. Yeah? We are all evolutionary beings. That's the beauty of all of us coming down here. But there are also beings who already do not do that evolution what we are doing, so to say. And they take the body, the human body, like rishis or avatars. Vivekananda is one of those avatars because he is not an evolutionary being, yeah? As Mother explains this. And it's something which you cannot find anywhere explained, only in the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, by the way. Um, we spoke about the avatar, no, the other day, didn't we? What
I
the
think I think we just touched on it a little bit. I'm not sure. Maybe somebody else can comment.
I was asking Kirit Joshi to explain to me this puzzle of avatars. Why Mother said that Sri Aurobindo wasn't the avatar, but he became the avatar. And this was a very puzzling statement, which I wanted to understand. How can you, as evolutionary being, become an avatar who is evolutionary being in a way? And he explained to me very beautifully. I think we discussed this in the Foundations of Indian Culture somewhere with some other group. And he explained to me, and after that, I never had any question of this very beautiful vision. The soul which is evolving here, there is a soul, evolutionary soul, is taken care by the higher universal being, yeah, which wants to embody itself in the future. So, for example, Sri Aurobindo was reincarnated in many different bodies before. He was Leonardo da Vinci, as we know it. Yeah, that is kind of confirmed, which is a big thing if you think about it. To know something like that, and to be absolutely sure, or Mother was Jeanne d'Arc. What else can you say? You know, it's changing the whole view on things. So. Being Leonardo, Leonardo was the evolving soul, but he was taken care by some higher being, which was developing in this soul the qualities and the faculties it needed in the future reincarnation as the avatar. So once the instrument is prepared over a long period of time, yeah, all the instruments, all the developmental kind of qualities are there, then this higher being can embody and come down into this instrument. That's what happened to Sri Aurobindo. His soul was prepared to receive that caretaker, that being who came down, as we call him, supramental avatar, because he was ready. The time was ready. Everything was prepared for them to meet with the Mother on earth, to come together. At least we believe in this, people who follow Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Yeah. Others, of course, they have different religious beliefs.
Thank you.
Yeah, you can imagine even Krishna before Krishna to be, but in Krishna's sense, he also was Vibhuti many times in many forms. If you look at the whole 10 avatars, you will see all the developmental stages, evolutionary stages, where that greater being was preparing the instruments for its future embodiment. Yeah? And it came from one Vishnu to another till Krishna was embodied. That was Vishnu avatar, before he was in another form. What is interesting in this way is to describe or to mention how Parashurama meets with Rama in Ramayana, if you remember. Parashurama, the previous avatar of Vishnu, meets Rama, the present avatar of Vishnu, in the same reincarnation, I mean in the physical body. How could that be? There should be only one avatar. No, not necessarily. Rama came with three brothers. They were avatars of Vishnu. So this idea that only one and nothing else is actually a little bit a mental idea. Yeah? So when he meets Parashurama, as you remember, Parashurama was very, how to say, very proud being, let us say that way. Very angry, easily angry. And when he heard that Rama broke the Shiva's bow, and that was for him, he became furious. I want to see this hero who broke. Nobody could tie the Shiva's bow to use it as a bow. It was so big and so heavy and so difficult. Even Ravana couldn't do it. Ravana also came secretly to marry Sita. He was there, but he was ashamed that he didn't have a force really to deal with his bow, with Shiva's bow. And when Rama took it and bent it with such force that it collapsed, it broke, and when it broke, it was like a thunder, and everybody fell on the ground. Everybody except Vishwamitra, who was there sitting looking at it, and Janaka king. Because the wave of the hit was so strong that everybody was on the ground. So when he heard about that news, that there is such a hero, he wanted to meet him and to fight with him. He thought it may be some kind of Rakshasa or some Asura. So when they met, it was a very beautiful meeting. In a way, he recognized in him Vishnu. And what he did, he gave him Vishnu's bow. Because he had it from the previous. So Rama from that time had a weapon of Vishnu, which later killed Ravana. So it's amazing. If you think of it, it's the whole story, how it is two avatars meet of the same Vishnu. Well, it's a mythology, but it's really kind of very, very beautiful. All my life I think about this meeting, Parashurama and Rama. It's so inspiring to see. And you know how he convinced him. It was very easy to convince him. He took the arrow, Rama, put it on the bow and said, choose what should I kill, because once a bow or the arrow is on the string, on the bow, it cannot be released. It has to do its deed. Choose what to kill, either your pride or your life. And Parashurama understood this is Vishnu talking. Nobody can speak this way. He said, my pride. So he shot his pride and he went into Himalayas and did his, penance, tapasya there for the rest of his life. As nobody already. He lost all his powers. It's amazing if you think of this.
So, Madhune, there has to be a reason, right? Why from the same God there were like two avatars at the same time?
He belonged to previous age. He destroyed all the Kshatriyas, black Kshatriyas, Parashurama. He had his mission fulfilled, and now he had to pass the weapon of Vishnu. Yeah? So who else could do it? Anyhow, this is a mythological story, but still, two avatars meet of one Vishnu in the body. It's a very rare event. So, really. And when Krishna was small, he was small. He was always playing Rama with the bow that he is killing Ravana. He was running around with the bow, wanting to be like Rama was. So there is some kind of, tradition, parampara. They know whom they represent. So the one who identifies oneself with me, he is free from obligation to be born mechanically. So he can come at will to birth. Sahasra yuga paryantam ahar yad brahmano viduh ratrim yuga sahasrantam te horatra vido janah. Sahasra yuga paryantam, up to 1,000 yugas. Ahah yad brahmano viduh, there is one day of Brahman, thus they know. Ratrim yuga sahasrantam, and there is 1,000 of yugas of the night of Brahman. Tehoratra vido janaha. Those are the people who know day and night. So it's kind of new qualification for people who know day and night. That is day and that is night. 1,000 of yugas. Those who know the day of Brahma, 1,000 ages, yugas in duration, and the night 1,000 ages in ending. They are the knowers of day and night.
We are in the night of Brahma.
No, we are in the day. Night of Brahman is pralaya. It is when there is a dissolution taking place, where everything disappears, where the divine withdraws all its formations and forms and will start again with the new power, with the new knowledge and wisdom how to do it. Yeah? Because the souls which are incarnating, acquiring that wisdom, we are here not for the first time and not for the hundredths or thousandths time. We were here millions of times. We acquired such a wisdom in the soul, not in the mental, vital, and physical being, but in the soul. How else could we be what we are? Mind is not enough to really operate so well. So there's someone here who acquired all the capacity to operate within the mind, within the vital, who is ancient, representing Purushottama in some way, growing here. It is him growing in the individual form. Only we are not yet aware of this. Until we are identifying ourselves with him, then we are aware. Then there is no more obligation to be born. So, and then, avyaktad vyaktayach sarvach prabhavanti ahar agame. Prabhavanti ahar agame. Ratriagame praliyante tatraiva avyakta sanjnake. Avyaktat, from avyakta, vyaktayach sarve. From avyakta, from unmanifest, all the manifestations, prabhavanti, come into being. Ahar agame, when the day comes. Ratriagame, but when there is ratri coming, the night approaches, praliyante, they disappear. Pralaya, this is praliyante, they dissolve, resolve into the night. Tatraiva avyakta sanjnake, and that is what we call avyakta. They kind of hide away, they dissolve their forms, the formations of their manifestation. All these forms are nothing but symbolic representatives of those souls behind and those minds and those vital movements. Yeah? They are temporarily here. They are manifestations of the beings behind and symbolic representatives, and they all resolve sooner or later to make another resolution to manifest better forms, more suitable forms, until it arrive at immortality. And about this we know only from the Rig Veda and from Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Only two sources of immortality, Rig Veda and Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. In between, from the Rig Veda till Sri Aurobindo and the Mother, all the literature speaks about all other things, but not about this immortality in the physical. And this is an amazing part of our integral yoga. So Sri Aurobindo and the Mother connect us to the beginnings, as it were, to the very idea why we are doing this, why should we reincarnate so many times, why do we need these pralayas and these days coming and going, what's the point? Well, there is a point. It's not just by itself, or there is no other way to be or something. No, it's an accumulation of power and wisdom and consciousness. It's an evolution of consciousness. We are acquiring new capacities every time. When I was younger, when I came to know about the system, I was thinking, how come? But when you dissolve everything, everything goes. Yeah? That was my question. Yeah? But then I understood when I became older that no, not everything goes. Something essential remains in the soul, in the quality, how we deal with our mental, vital, and physical nature, the capacity of dealing with it. We already, every time we grow in the soul, so soul can rebuild very fast. It doesn't need to be forever going to arrive at this kind of manifestation of this body. It can go faster, it can go more precise. Even from the beginning of evolution, it can go more precise. So the selection of all the elements is taking place in another setting, or more wise setting. Yeah? The whole evolution could take place in a different way. Anyhow, nature is trying to help this. And then, bhuta gramach sa evayam bhutva praliyate ratriagame avashach partha prabhavatyar agame. So bhuta gramach, the whole multitude of existences of the becomings, all this group soul, this multitude of existences helplessly comes into the becoming again and again. Bhutva, having become again and again, praliyate, and dissolves. Is dissolved in the becoming, I guess, of the night, in the coming of the night of Partha, and is born into being at coming of the day. So all these crowded formations which were already before are coming into being every time with this rhythmic breathing in and out day and night. So there is a higher purpose in it, because the night is infinite and the fallen emanations of the being, consciousness, bliss and truth have to be brought back, and with this stirring, constant sacrifice, it acquires more capacity or more possibility to be flexible and responding to the spirit. So it slowly learns to give itself to the divine. So, and by that, the redemption, the process of the redemption is taking place. Again, we know about it from Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. Yes, it looks like the question, does soul need to redo everything? Yes, but it acquired already some kind of capacity. Yeah? Capacity to deal with matters which are in time and space, with mortal mind, with mortal feelings, emotions, sensations, and physicality. So it has a certain, yeah, I think capacity is the right word, more than instruments. It doesn't have instruments, but it somehow, when it comes to it, it knows intuitively of what to do and how to be with them.
The Bhuta Grama, that is translated here as the multitude of existences, but Bhuta is a very common word. I understand that it has different meanings. Could it also mean the multitude of beings, or would that be
Yeah.
Bhutani? Okay, you
Yeah,
put
bhuta is actually a participle perfect passive voice from root bhu, to become or to
right.
be. So these are becomings or beings or existences.
Well, and that brings out a deeper truth that I hadn't considered until you mentioned it, that each existence is a being, a great being. You know, we our culture doesn't teach us that the earth is a being, the universe is a being. That's a cultural deficiency. Now, it's kind of like a learning defect that we all grow up with until we come across enlightened souls who dispel these illusions that we're brainwashed into.
Right.
Yeah.
You remember in the chapter 2, he was telling us already that there is no being here which wasn't. Yeah. And there is no, so if you are to die, so you can't be that you will never be, because you were already here. So whatever is here or embodied, it has an internal existence behind. Yeah? Cannot be that you come from nowhere and to nowhere you return as nothing. This can't be.
Yeah. Natvevaham jatanasham natvam janadipa
Right.
sarvabhutani.
Yes. So it is exactly this idea again, that these beings in this grammar, so if they can become, that means they have the reality behind. Otherwise, how could this formation take place ever if there would be not real at all?
Yeah. And then about 10 minutes ago, you mentioned that when we're on the evolutionary path, we mechanically come back to continue that evolution. But it sounds like, automatically, that statement taken by itself, perhaps out of context, makes it sound like automatically we're on the train and we can't get off. We're on the evolutionary train, and it's just like taking a form and getting another form, almost as if that's a trivial mathematical decision process, and not something that we have to pray for and strive for and yearn for, is to have a suitable body. I spent some time in another tradition where that taught that we have to absolutely intently pray for a body when we're without a body. We pray for the chance to evolve again, and having the body is a great and rare privilege. In fact, you sometimes hear, I think at least in the Upanishadic tradition, or the Adi Shankara, that it's a great privilege, it's a rare treat to get a human body, that all the animals and the angels and all are jealous of us because we have this an exceptional opportunity to evolve that they don't have. Only in the human, Sri Aurobindo says the same thing. Only a human can unite with the divine.
Yeah, yeah. I think yes. Yeah, I totally kind of with you, and yeah, right.
So maybe it's one of those the question of whether it's automatic and mechanical that we get the body best suited for our next evolution, or something that we achieve only by sincere aspiration and desire. We may blow it and live our life in debauchery, but it's still, to get that opportunity, we had to have some sincerity. So these two teachings don't quite jive in my mind, but that may be one of these other paradoxes, how Brahman can take on the form or the deformed state, as Shraddhalu talks about in his commentaries on the Sri Aurobindo Upanishad. The Brahman appears as suffering, and it also appears as relative likes and desires. There's also the pure Ananda of Brahman, and there's no contradiction. These are just different appearances of the same thing.
Right. Well, we have to resolve this puzzle for our mind, because how else we could think of it? Yes.
Yeah.
But here he says clearly avashach, and I'm just following the same idea.
Yeah. Without
helplessly.
Against his will. Yeah. Helplessly. Yeah.
So without will, that means our will is not counted, because we once long ago we agreed to do that. And so again, Kiri Joshi helped us to explain us very beautifully that we long ago signed the contract with the divine as souls. Yeah. And according to that contract, we had to build for him the place, or the embodiment, so to say. But there was a small kind of note there in small letters, like conditions and so on, that the moment we sign the contract, we forget about the contract. So we forgot about the contract, and that created for us all the trouble. When we plunged in, we do not know what we are doing here until it is done totally. And once it is totally done, only then we can be at peace. So basically, once we sign the contract, we avashach coming here without any, because we agreed to do it. So to say, somebody asked Sri Aurobindo the same question, whether it is true that when you are mukta, that you dissolve yourself in the Brahman. You remember we read just a few lines before, that from the Brahman itself, the embodiment, the reincarnation in coming. So whether it is that safe place for no return. And he says, no, it's not like that, because the agreement is there. The agreement of us working for the divine, yeah. So as souls, we agreed to do it. And because of that, when we come to that spirit, we will be sent back, because we signed the agreement. Even if you are mukta, you will start your journey again until you do the work and you really embody the divine in material form. Here we are. We are kind of... And that is, I think, which may explain avashach. Yeah. You see where I'm coming from. I'm coming from a bit different background, so that helplessly avashach is something which we, truly speaking, cannot avoid, because we agreed upon that to do that work for the divine. Yeah? As Mother describes this beautifully in the myth of creation, when she was looking for some force in the Supreme which would precipitate the fallen emanations, you remember? First she found the gods, they didn't want to come down. Then she found the force of the power of love, as she says, which agreed to plunge into the darkness of inconscient. And this is our souls. That power of love agreed to redeem these fallen emanations, to bring them back to their self-awareness. So we agreed with the divine. We signed the contract. And, well, contract is another language, yes.
Yeah,
Close
but you're saying that in that contract, part of the contract that we agreed to was to forget.
Right. In small
and
notes.
the detail, small print. So in forgetting, if we hadn't had that clause to forget, then we wouldn't have such a long play. It would just be instant recognition as soon as we.
It might be that we would run away, and this is something interesting. I was thinking all my life, why so few muktas here in this world? Only you can count them, just few people. Even in India, great India, because there is a problem with this. So the moment you become mukta, you don't want to stay. You want to go. Yeah, because
so many saints describe the world as just mud. It's just
why should you suffer here and do what God knows what if you are already identified with unborn self, with pure bliss, pure joy, pure light, knowledge? Why to stay and suffer? And that's why we have this beautiful Isha Upanishad, which in the second shloka tells us, yes, kurvan neveha karmani, the one who does here works, jijivyashet shatam samah, he should wish to stay 100 years, full cycle of life. Evam tvainan yatchetosti na karma lipyatenare. And thus, and not otherwise, karma does not stick to man. So karma does not have consequences if, being free, as the Lord is, from the obligation to be here, you continue to fulfill the full cycle of life. They speak about 100 years, and most probably that's why Mother always mentioned 100 years. If I only can cross 100 years, because from her birth she was totally conscious. She was totally mukta. She never needed mukti because she was mukta. She was free. It was her choice to come. If she could cover this 100 years circle, then there would be no consequences of karma for man, for mankind, let us say. So there would be irreversible transformation of some kind. I think there is some occult truth in it if we are going deeper into this topic of reincarnation. But still, if you think of working here for the divine, so to work for the divine, kurvan neveha karmani, doing all the works, not for oneself anymore, but as involutionary being, coming at will. Ramakrishna spoke of these two, Jivan Koti and Ishvara Koti. You remember these two types of souls. He says that Jivan Koti is the one who is looking for liberation for himself only. It's actually some kind of ignorance. In a way, it is ignorance. We know it from Sri Aurobindo and the Mother. It's to want to be free oneself. How can you be free? Even in Buddhism later, Buddha became, Amitabha Buddha, the one he would never leave to nirvana until everybody reaches the liberation. So there is some problem with this. Running away, escape brings not the victory and the crown. So we cannot by escape achieve what we are supposed, what we are meant to do here. You remember how the Supreme tells to Savitri, and what will your soul do, when she was crying to heaven, saying, why should I stay? If you take away Satyavan, I go also. I die. I leave. And the voice says, what would your soul do when approaching the throne of the Supreme will declare that your work was half done, was not finished. Your mission is not done. And she understood everything. She cannot behave in that way. It's not about her. It's not about her bliss and her happiness and her understanding of the truth. It's much more.
Yeah, so Vladimir, going back to our working for the divine, I think that's very consistent with Sri Aurobindo's perspective on karma, because he tells us that the only karma that sticks to us in our lifetime is what serves our evolutionary advance, and that all else doesn't. So it's all for the evolution that we live and that we work.
Right. Yes, absolutely. And so we also feel, we know it psychologically. Whenever we are doing it right, we never feel that we are forced or it's heavy or it's difficult. We don't even remember that we did something. It's like we didn't do anything, This feeling of doing nothing is actually the right way of doing, because then we are totally following the truth of our being. It's amazing. It sounds like a little bit like lazy, but laziness can be also very heavy. It's really very tamasic and heavy and unhappy. So, but when you are yourself, truly yourself. For example, I had a privilege to live in Oroville, and I don't even remember that I did anything there for 27 years. It was like nothing. I don't remember anything, no heaviness, though it was very, from the point of view of ordinary mind, 5,000 rupees maintenance to live is not so easy, with the family, with your daughter. I lived with my daughter. It was really sometimes very tough. There was no money. There was very little food and this and that, and no entertainment. But I don't remember any hardships. It's weird. When you come here, you start noticing everything, how much everything costs, all the hardships and so on. But when you come to this work for the divine, what else could you be happy with? It's all there already. It's all given. What else would you want to have? Can we have anything else but that? So yes, that's that karma that does not stick to man, as Sri Aurobindo beautifully says somewhere. When you sit on the top of Himalayas and you rule by the powers in the world, and you feel that you do nothing, this is the right attitude. You rule the whole, history, and you feel you do nothing because you are true to the divine. And there's that freedom of the divine, that power, free. Shraddha was talking beautifully about this spiritual power. It doesn't feel like you do something.
Is it because it's a state of complete surrender?
Yeah.
Where you know you're not the doer,
Right.
and something else is actually working.
Yeah, because the divine is absolutely free, ultimately free in every, and as Shri Krishna says, I have nothing to gain here. But though I do everything, I don't have anything to gain. This is the state. If we identify with him, we would be in that state of total freedom and happiness, whatever we do. And then it doesn't matter hardship or not hardship. From the point of view of the mental, vital, and physical nature, it does not count, as it were. I do not know. This is a magic. It is playing its totally different role, as it were. It gives us a more sharp or more distinct recognition of the divine. Hardships. They're kind of helping us to recognize more powerful presence of the divine in life. It's again a big question for all of us, because when Savitri receives her wounds, if you remember, the divine tells her, I will be with you in everything, in your difficulties, in your battles, in your sufferings. So what does it really mean? That means sufferings would not go. Only the divine will fill everything. So all those events in life will continue. But with the divine, it changes totally the whole, not only attitude, but the whole substance of relations and the whole energy field.
It's a complete change in consciousness.
Yeah, and also being, yeah, when the divine is present, and power and suffering becomes delight, as it were. Sri Aurobindo, this motive he is bringing all the time in all his dramas. If you see his Perseus the Deliverer, where I can't forget it, it was so moving when Andromeda meets Athena. And they speak. Athena, the Divine Mother, comes to her before she had to be sacrificed to that Poseidon's creature, and she says, "You will be hated in this world and the next, constantly by all people you love." And she says, it's unsufferable. How can that be? The loving person, Andromeda, the young child, will be hated for nothing by all. But then she asks, will you be with me? And Athena says, yes. Then she says, I am ready. So this is the level of the presence of the divine. She is ready for all the sufferings from all the corners of the world. She will be destroyed, hated, beaten down, and Athena will be with her. That's it. That's enough. That's soothing all the wounds. This is something Sri Aurobindo always brings. Yeah, it has something. He wants to tell us something about that presence of the divine in our life. That it won't be some kind of beautiful, harmonious, and not violating anything, ahimsa space where everybody is happy. No, there will be wars. There will be kind of movement, a lot of movement of energy. But with the divine, it changes everything. I think like this now, for now. All right. Paras, and here it comes, very interesting statement, which is Sri Aurobindo gives it the importance. Parach tasmat tu bhavo niyach avyakto avyaktat sanatanach. I'm just undoing the sandhis. Yaksa sarveshu bhuteshu nachetsuna vinashyati. So parach, the highest, tasmat bhavach. So tasmat tu bhavach is even higher. That being is higher from that. Anyach avyaktach, other, from avyakta avyakta. So to say, transcendental to the transcendental, as it were. So behind the avyakta, the unmanifest, there is another unmanifest. So that unmanifest, beyond the unmanifest, so transcendental to the transcendental is the Purushottama. Yaksa sarveshu bhuteshu, the one who is in all the beings, all the becomings, nashyatsu, who are constantly being destroyed or perish, navinashyati, he never perishes. So this is Parat Para of the Shatapatha, of the Shvetashvatara Upanishad, or Katha Upanishad speaks about the transcendental of the transcendental. Sri Aurobindo makes references to it, and here we have again this. But this unmanifest is not the original divinity of the being. There is another status of his existence, a supracosmic unmanifest beyond this cosmic non-manifestation, which is eternally self-seated, is not an opposite to this cosmic status of manifestation, but far above and unlike it, changeless, eternal, not forced to perish with the perishing of all these existences. What is interesting here is avyaktah avyaktat, this language. Transcendental, or the unmanifest from unmanifest, beyond unmanifest, there is another unmanifest or non-manifest. And he continues, avyakto aksharach ityuktach tasmad ahuch, or tam ahuch paramam gatim yam prapyana nivartante tadhama paramam mama. So avyakta akshara ityuktach, they call it as avyakta, unmanifest, and akshara, indestructible, immutable. Paramam gatim, that is the supreme status or supreme goal of our journey. Yam prapya, having reached which, nanivartante, nobody comes back here. Nobody is forced to come back here unwillingly. Tadhama paramam mama, that is my highest place, realm. Okay, we can stop here. And if you have some observations and thoughts, please share.
Vladimir, earlier on you spoke about Sri Aurobindo, not, as I understand it, not being aware entirely that he was an avatar from the beginning. I didn't know much about this. Was there a time when this realization came over him, or was it a gradual progression? Or do you know any more about it?
Yeah, he underwent very great suffering, Mother says, because of that. So he had to accept that kind of who was kind of developing him over time and become it. He had to become an avatar. And she says there is a reason for this, because he had to play this role of transformation. He had to undergo all those changes, to know how it feels, to know by experience, not just to come as an inborn avatar, but to become the avatar in this very body, in the embodiment, is a big difference.
Yeah.
So the mother speaks about this in Agenda, by the way. Yeah. And that was a very big puzzle. How can you become the avatar? So I wanted to know the technology behind, and so Kiri Joshi helped me out. And he said that every other avatar is in the same way in becoming avatar. So avatar is preparing over many vibhutis before the instrument for its future embodiment. By the way, most probably we are doing the same as souls. We are developing something here in reincarnation, our soul capacity. We are developing by reincarnating until we are ready to manifest the divine, but in our own evolutionary way.
Isn't there a passage in Savitri, it escapes me now, that really conveys that process? There's also the identification, of course, like he who must ere the world must share its pain, that sort of line. But
Yes,
I think there's another passage which indicates Sri Aurobindo's development into, or at least implies the development into the avatar.
absolutely. Lonely his days and splendid like the suns. This is Sri Aurobindo. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
But I know he like the mother, he suffered so much physically as well. Although I mean, there's parts of him that were not identified with his body, but there was a devotee. He kept asking Sri Aurobindo. He loved Sri Aurobindo so much. He said, "Can I see your heart?" To Sri Aurobindo, he kept asking him, and finally Sri Aurobindo gave him the vision of his heart, and it was totally lacerated, cut up and lacerated.
Mm.
That's the supreme love for the. That's what he suffered. Although he never, it's very hard to tell.
Yeah.
There was the Cartier-Bresson photos that were taken of Sri Aurobindo in the 1950s. I think Mother said there's one, just in one photograph, you could see how much he was suffering. Most of the time he was able to completely hide it.
Yeah, at the end of his life, especially in 1950, when the photographer came, she said she never saw him so different. It was maybe he already knew that time has come. He never wanted to tell this to the mother because she would not allow him. She somewhere says about this that he didn't tell me because he knew that I would not let him go.
Yeah. Yeah, she mentions that in her accounts of his passing.
Yeah, this is the saga of the highest evolutionary kind of story of humanity. So beautiful to be part of it, to know about it, to belong to it. Yeah. I don't think anything can be higher. Yes. Sorry, Matt.
Excuse me, I agree, but that nothing can be higher. And I think this is one of the concerns we have about passing from life to life is not wanting to start all over again, because Mother says that, maybe it takes about 30 years before we become conscious, and that it's a huge waste to live, to die and be reborn and have to go through that process. But then they do give us kind of some instructions about how to maintain the gains, that whatever gains we attain in life. And that is, and it's a difficult work, of course, nothing's easy in this yoga, to center the various parts of the being around the psychic being. If we can gather them around the psychic being, the mind, the vital, the physical consciousness, and all the elements of those around the psychic being, then we can maintain the gains in this life as we go forward into the next life. But of course, it's a very difficult work.
Yeah, one thing is to kind of to learn in the psychic how to deal with mind. Yeah, psychic evolves by this interaction with the mind, vital and physical, and becomes more efficient in the next reincarnation and so on. That's what we acquire for our reincarnation. And the other is what Mother did. She created her immortal mental being and immortal vital being. She really completed their formations. So, and even in Agenda, she says that she let them go as long as she was dealing directly with the physical being, directly with the light, not through the mind and vital, because they were already finished, so to say, in her creation of her own body. This is unheard of. You would not find such, even such concepts, even in Indian, so well developed spiritual traditions, that somebody actually completed formation of the mental and vital being because these now become totally aware of everything she gained in this reincarnation. So whenever she comes, she can call them and she would have a total awareness of everything what was done before. It's amazing. It's not the psychic memory, yeah? It's a mental memory, vital memory. It's a formation of the body, which is unthinkable, which you think. Oh, Siegfried, we shifted the time. Sorry, Siegfried. We are coming to the end of today. We will be 1 hour earlier for some time with you, and then you will shift again. Then we will fall back. It's 2 weeks shift.
Okay, okay. Don't worry. It's okay. Thank you. Now I'm just in the time for the prayers. Thank you for dedication. Thank you.
Right. But this, yeah, with formation of the mental and vital and physical had to be formed, and it wasn't yet kind of possible to do. And she already saw it in the subtle physical, that body, that supramental body she describes in Agenda, if you remember, that dense body, which was very dense and flexible. And she describes its qualities, that it doesn't have the organs of, the digestion, the organs of reproduction. It's not there anymore, but there will be only breathing. Breathing is there still, yeah. It's a very beautiful, very well-formed formation. But for the physical, she realized that the resistance is so huge from the subconscious of all humanity. That has to be dealt with. It's not enough for the physical to build the immortal physical being. You have to conquer all. Otherwise, it will not happen. So, and then she had to withdraw because of, again, humanity is not ready, again is not ready. But the work is continuing. We are acquiring new capacity, even thinking about it, even speaking these unthinkable things is already the beginning.
So Martha was talking about evolutionary work, and do you think that this, what Martha just said, bringing the physical, the vital, centering it around the central being, that is the evolutionary work? Is that
Absolutely,
so?
absolutely. There is no other evolutionary work. Only the psychic. Psychic is evolving and growing, the divine within. Everything has to be kind of centered around it, given to it, enlightened by it. There is no other way. Of course, we invoke also higher being from above, but again, it is to support psychic, to support its growth. Otherwise, it's of no use. If it is not supporting the growth from the heart, so what for? It may work on the mental and vital and physical for humanity, let us say, kind of giving some more possibilities for other beings, but truly speaking, it is connected to the psychic. Psychic is calling it and it is answering. Psychic again calling it and it is again coming and bringing new and new capacity in the mental and vital and physical. So when the spiritual force comes, it comes to the mental, vital and physical. But it is called by the psychic. It's amazing how it is made. Somebody wise made this world and gave us this knowledge. We know what is going on, at least. How many people don't know at all what is going on? They believe in some kind of fantasies and
So maybe when we are born again, and if we have done this integral yoga of Sri Aurobindo, we'll start off where we left off.
absolutely. Sri Krishna says in the Gita the same. Arjuna complains, says, what will happen to me if I'm lost on the path? Where would go all these efforts of trying to know, to understand? He said, don't worry. It will continue. You will be born in better situation because all that effort in the soul is counted. It's an experience, yeah, which we carry within us. It will not go easily away.
Yes, we don't want to start from 0 to 30 again.
No, and you notice when children are born how different they are. They are so clever sometimes, so bright, and they know something definitely. You could see in their eyes. Yeah,
They're very evolved already.
right. And they need only instruments, vital, mental, language, and they acquire those instruments, and they are bright like anything. Yeah? It's not because of the brain development. It's not. Of course, brain has to be also developed or evolutionary, yes. It's prepared the instrument, but not because of brain that they are so bright.
No, there's something bigger.
Mm.
There's something more bigger.
Great. Okay, so
Yeah,
yes, somebody wants to say, Sangeet.
you have to find the right. Yeah. Yeah. I guess the trick is to find the right family to be born in. I don't know. Hopefully, there'll be families that are conducive to their next life's progress.
Always true.
I don't know. Some of us had to go through a lot of detours for that.
Yeah, the soul is stronger even than the family. You can be born in a very kind of seemingly bad conditions and you will find your way out. Yeah, I was born in the Soviet Union, in the communist family. My father was preaching there is no God to everyone, going to every church to tell everyone there is no God, don't believe in God. And you see how everything turned to be. So somehow there is always a way out, you know. There are other
I hope so.
criteria. Yeah. And there are people who are born in
Just to say that.
Go ahead.
No, sorry. A lot of us were born when mother and Sri Aurobindo were physically there or close to. I'm not sure when you were born, when mother was, probably when mother was in a body. So this is the next life. For some of us, may be difficult if the mother and Sri Aurobindo are not in the physical. Because a lot of these souls, I think the ashram, they were there before for several lives and they came together again. I think that's what mother said. So it's going to be challenging the next life. So as much as we can do in this life, it's better.
Some of, yes, like Robert, they are lucky they met the mother. She saw Robert, so what she said somewhere that once she sees the being, she will never forget. So Robert is on her list, so it's fine. So we are kind of coming with him, around him, holding him to bring us closer to the mother.
Well, thank you. It was a wonderful privilege. But I remember when I was in the ashram for 4 years and then I went back to England for a while. And I remember being very afraid that moving away from Pondicherry, I would lose that atmosphere and that presence and so on. But I do believe now that things have changed and that this what the mother represents, this force, this evolutionary force, this presence is available everywhere, and the work is going on everywhere. I think that is the evolution for us. I mean, it's being through their work, it's more available on a wider scale, and people may not recognize it. I mean, they're just behaving in a different, more progressive and forward-looking way in many fields. I mean, scientific, humanitarian, social fields. I mean, it's their work going on everywhere. It's not just localized in Pondicherry or the Auroville.
Yeah, I agree. And these are only instruments, so to say, science and this and that. These are the fields of application of some consciousness. Yeah. So, and if we speak scientific language, it doesn't mean that we do not believe in the truth. Yeah. And that it's all that luminous consciousness dealing with scientific matters, which changes everything. Yes, absolutely.
So I arrived in Pondicherry in the ashram a few months after Mother had passed.
Mm.
And I was really blessed with meeting quite a lot really, of disciples who had been close to Mother. And they all told me that her passing meant that her force was, and her presence was more widespread and less concentrated in the ashram then. And I think they were trying to assure me that I hadn't missed too much, but of course I always had that feeling of having missed seeing her in the body. But I think what I was told was very true, that her presence has, because of after her passing, her presence was more widespread in the world, and that where you are is less relevant than it was before.
No, it is felt in samadhi when when you arrive there, you just feel this tangible, dense, absolutely marvelous presence. So sometimes I feel it. You can even like a fullness of some kind of rosy. I feel when Sri Aurobindo is there, it's like a rosy presence of fullness and some kind of like his flower, like this type. It's sweet. The mother is different a bit. Sri Aurobindo has. And anyhow, this is all very subjective, but you can sit there forever on those, near the doors where people are sitting. You just forget time, forget everything. Yeah, everything feels at home. Our soul feels at home there. We belong to them. We know that. We are their team, a second round. We have to continue the work they entrusted. Yeah. So great. So I will close with mantra. Thank you for sharing these with the mother. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om.
Thank you.